Imagine finding a way to be transported to the world of your dreams, to get the girl of your dreams that's way out of your league by any standard, to have a magical ability that even if you die, you get a do-over, and you can keep getting do-overs until you get everything you want right, and still managing to whine, cry, and complain for 50% of your existence. Honestly, I think this absolute legend deserves a medal, okay? Now, when you see the title of this video, you're probably thinking, wow, Nux is probably talking about the average person on Twitter. And if that is what was going through your mind, you are wrong. Although also sort of right, and you will see how the right and wrongness of that statement converges later into the video. Believe it or not, an insane amount of work went into this one, and I'm very excited to show it to you guys, and I genuinely hope you enjoyed this one. Maybe giving it a like and subscribing if you're not subscribed. That would be sick. But can I just take a moment to appreciate the fact that ReZero is one of the greatest anime series ever, and when I say one of the greatest, I mean like top 50. And the fact that it has absolutely no hype right now because everyone's talking about Attack on Titan. Well, not this bastard. I'm gonna talk about ReZero first. Why, you ask? Well, because I already read the Attack on Titan manga, so I'm not overly excited by each new episode, whereas ReZero is new to me and very hyped. But I wanted to take this to the next level. I wanted to talk about myself mostly through the lens of ReZero, as well as telling you things about ReZero that maybe on first watch through you did not see. I put a lot of time into this one, lad. That's what I'm trying to say. Anywho, point is, it starts off with a dude who's alone. He's a weeb. He's unappreciated by his peers. He's buying porn. I mean, okay, whatever. You know, he's buying manga, let's say. Right. And he walks out of the store and ends up in another world. A world where he could craft a new image of himself entirely. And that's sort of exactly what he does. Now, I can only speak from personal experience because I don't know what goes on in all of your life. But for me personally, whenever I'm put in a new setting, maybe going from high school to college, or transitioning high schools, or moving from a setting where people know you to a setting where people don't know you, you can think to yourself, wait a second, I can craft my own identity. I don't have to just be that person that I was before, that extremely uncool individual that people didn't exactly love, but instead, I can make something different of myself. I can act differently. I can act cool. I can act mysterious. I could be that guy that's quiet and badass, and that's how I look to myself when I'm really just acting antisocial and creepy to everybody else. I don't think this is alone to me. I think a lot of people do think that way. And I also think that in general, it's kind of an unhealthy mindset. Now, hear me out for a second. If you're completely satisfied with who you are before moving or before transitioning, then you wouldn't have to now decide on what your personality is in your new setting. By the fact that you even need to think about it and say to yourself, well, okay, I could tweak this, I could tweak that, I could be outgoing, I could be introverted, I could be edgy, I could be cool, I could even change around my hobbies. I could decide I like sports and mingle with the cool kid. Just by the fact that these thoughts go through your head, it means you're not happy with exactly who you are. And I think that's sad. I'm not talking down to you because I have the same thought process, but watching it through Subaru's eyes in ReZero, it allows me to actually appreciate who I am and see that I'm not alone in this area of loneliness. You see, Subaru can enter this alternate world and he can be funny and outgoing. He can decide, you know what? I just need to be brave starting from now because my cowardice in the past that no one can look at or see, well, that's irrelevant. So Subaru turns over a new leaf and becomes a new person. Most isekai anime do not start off in this way. Isekai anime, for those of you that don't know, when the main character gets transported to an alternate universe to defeat the demon lord or whatever the hell other pastime he needs to find over there. But for the most part, when someone transfers from one world to another world in any piece of media, whether it's anime or other fiction, he doesn't go through the personality change. He doesn't go through the thought processes of, I'm not happy with who I am, I therefore need to craft something different for myself. When I look at all these other shows, it's the same exact person that was hit by a truck and killed and now transported to an alternate universe. That was the person that was hit by the truck, but not Subaru. ReZero does an amazing job when it comes to crafting the psychology and the different psychological states of the different characters, especially Subaru. Even though Subaru is not inherently one of my favorite characters of all time, the way ReZero describes his ups and downs mentally makes ReZero one of my favorite anime of all time. I wouldn't have ever stressed on this point that he just could decide his new personality when entering an alternate world if it wasn't the major ongoing theme of ReZero. It's a theme of being unhappy with yourself, yet being so alone. Now, I don't mean to be all touchy-feely, cutesy-wootsy, put my finger in my dookie, but I relate to that mindset, okay? Every single YouTuber, to a certain extent, has a persona on YouTube that they can decide exactly how they want to be perceived by other people. All my videos, I'm showing you the high points of my personality. personality. I'm not showing you when I'm sitting under a table, crying, getting drunk, and eating ice cream. Not that that's ever happened or anything, but if it would, I wouldn't document it, is what I'm trying to say. Being that I'm showing you the high points, I can selectively choose what parts of my life I want you to see. And that's exactly what Subaru does when he enters this other world. He doesn't go around filling people in on his wasted life until this point, how he didn't really go to school, he was kind of a nerd, he didn't have any friends. No, he's not gonna fill them in on that. He's gonna decide what he wants them to see from this moment forward. And despite the fact that that's great as far as the future goes, his personage includes his past. I know it's an amazing mindset to look at people for who they become, not for who they were, but to really connect with someone, it's important to know where they came from as well. So on a personal level, just from the setting alone of Subaru transferring to this other world and then immediately crafting a new persona for himself that he wants people to regard him in that way, it does very much remind me of my job, where I am showing you a persona that I want you to see, even if it's not necessarily 100% accurate to me myself, because just like everyone else, I have my down points in life, and it's much easier to just run away from them than to actually confront them. As ReZero progresses, this theme of being alone increases tremendously with every passing episode. Honestly, it's one of the reasons why I love this show so much, despite not even being the primary thematic principle that the show actually follows. The main character's power is probably the high point of ReZero, and really the glue that sticks everything together. On the one hand, it's the ability to return by death. Anytime he dies, he comes back to life at the last quote-unquote checkpoint, so he could give things a go again, so that he can always keep trying. Wow, very wholesome and convenient, so that even if he dies or his loved ones die, he can always off himself and try again. Wow, I am so happy things are actually working out. This is so wholesome. I mean, obviously, there's tremendous psychological trauma to, being killed again and again and again, and watching your loved ones die time and time again so you can keep reviving yourself, and it's brutal out there, fam. It is rough. And for the most part, when it comes to ReZero, that's the best part. The psychological journey that Subaru goes through as he tries time and time again to get things to work out well. And that's all fine, great, and dandy. But the real reason I'm making this video is because of a different aspect to Subaru's power. An aspect that I don't really see anybody talking about, despite the fact that it is the cornerstone of what makes his power so terrifying. And that is that he is forbidden to tell people that he has this ability. Anytime he wants to tell people that he has this return by death power, ethereal ghostly hands clutch his heart and begin to sap away at his life force. It becomes impossible for him to actually tell other people what he experiences and what he does, and it's a burden he has to bear alone. This obviously makes sense in the plot itself. It's not just PTSD or whatever that he doesn't want to talk about it. The being that gave him this power, and I'm trying not to spoil here, is the being that forbids him to tell others of this ability. And pardon me, but that's what makes it powerful. As I mentioned, this guy going through his crazy personality shift, popping into the world, clearly showing that he is unhappy with himself and he's not willing to share who he truly is with others, trying to instead craft a new identity for himself. This is the same individual who's locked in a position that he cannot share his present ongoings with the people around. Being alone, in my mind, isn't not having people around. It's not living a single life without a roommate. It's not having people around as you're camping in the wilderness, fighting bears and stuff, okay? That's not what loneliness is. The way I view loneliness is the isolation of having no one to tell what you feel. And I don't mean a therapist, okay? Even if it's not traumatic things, not being able to talk to people makes it nearly impossible to go through anything. And even having one person that's willing to hear what you have to say and can understand or relate to what you're going through, it makes the world of a difference in your battle against anything. As a YouTuber, I stress over the YouTube algorithm a lot. I made an hour and 10-minute video talking about how the YouTube algorithm is designed to break you. Yes, I stress over it. And despite the fact that I have a bunch of friends that I'm always happy to talk to, I cannot talk to them about these things because they don't get it. They can't relate to something so far-fetched and far away, distant from their current lives. So when it comes to the YouTube system, I am alone when it comes to all my IRL friends. The YouTubers that I've met through this, the people that I can really talk and vent about my experiences, they've saved me. There is no way I would still be making videos, despite the fact that I love making videos. There's no way I would still be doing it if I didn't have the backbone and cornerstone of other YouTubers that I could talk to about these things. Having someone that could relate to you, having someone that you could share your experiences with, means that there's another shoulder that it could weigh on, that you have someone with you lugging your baggage up the mountain that is life. And Subaru having this crazy power, this traumatic power to die and die time and time again, watching his friends before him die yet come back, is not nearly as bad as the fact that he can't tell anyone about it. The fact that no one could recognize him for what he does. You got a lot of rich people giving money to charity, and that's wonderful and great, but they wouldn't give that money to charity if they didn't have people recognizing it, okay? They're not selfless here. Bill Gates can't do anything with $100 billion. That's what I'm trying to say. There gets to a point where, like, I mean, to be honest, there's only so many personal jets that a guy needs, but still, he makes sure that the whole world sees him give money to charity. So despite the trauma and the pain that Subaru goes through time and time again, no one could recognize the weight he's pulling. No one knows that he's been through this same scenario a dozen times, watching himself and his friends die torturous deaths before him. People can't understand why he seems so stressed out and despondent to current society. There are a bunch of examples that I wanted to bring from the actual show to really prove my point, and I wanted to mention them, but I also wanted to say that this concept speaks to me, and not just to me because I'm a YouTuber. No, it speaks to everyone. Being that we're all created differently, we all have different issues. We all have baggage, and we all have things that we want to share but can't share. People with financial troubles can't complain to people that don't have financial troubles, because even if they could hear it, they will never understand it. People with relationship issues can't complain to people who never had a relationship, because even if they want to listen and mean well, they won't understand it. We all have a personal life, and we all have personal experiences that are unique to us, and none of them are as traumatic as Subaru's. But despite that, watching this story, watching this man muddling alone in the dark, really hits me hard as someone that also has things to share that just can't be translated. It's weird. It's weird that I feel like the people that watch me are friends of mine on one hand, and I appreciate all of you. I really genuinely do. But on the flip side, if I ever tell you my address, I'm gonna get swatted again, because I've already gotten swatted, and it was horrible. Someone called the SWAT team. They came to my house. They were like, all right, are you hoarding guns or drugs? I'm like, no. They searched my apartment. They told me they got a call, an anonymous tip that I was doing all these terrible, heinous activities. I showed them that, like, I stream and stuff, and it was probably some crazy fan. They were like, all right, you have a good day, sir. I offered them a drink because I'm a gentleman. They turned it down because they probably thought I was gonna poison them, and that was the story. Now, it doesn't sound too scary, but there are so many stories of people getting swatted, and the SWAT team kills the person. There are so many deaths that come from swatting, it's insane. And this isn't a story about me venting about swatting, but can you imagine how scary it is for me knowing that it could happen at any time? Now, I'll be frank, every time I want to stream, it goes through my head that I might get swatted on stream. And the fact that that pops into my head every single time I'm gonna click the go live button is not normal. But it's also a feeling that no one in the world, unless there's someone that got swatted in the past, can relate to. No one can relate to that fear. So I have this weird relationship with you. On the one hand, I genuinely appreciate you, and I'm always happy to talk to you guys, and I'm thrilled when I read your comments. But on the other hand, I can't tell you too personal shiz. I don't want more SWAT teams coming to my house. What I'm trying to say. Now, the disability to relate to people around you is torture. It's rough. Being an anime fan in my high school, when there was like one other kid in the whole school that liked anime, and he only actually joined the school in like 9th grade. So until that point, I was kind of alone. Well, I'm not gonna talk to people about anime when the last anime they watched was Pokemon in kindergarten. Not being able to relate to the people around you sucks is what I'm trying to say. And in ReZero Season 1, there was a scene where Subaru was acting like a complete jackass in the throne room in front of Emilia and in front of all the other royal selection candidate people, and it was tough to watch. Subaru then gets into a fight with Sir Pompous Night Douche, and of course Sir Pompous Night Douche does a great job of absolutely destroying him because he's way stronger and it was a terrible idea on Subaru's part. And then when Subaru's in bed, beaten to a pulp, he says to Emilia, I did all this for you, and Emilia shuts him down. She asked him to stop. She asked him to not keep poking the bear, and he freaks out. He gets all clingy. He seems to know her way better than she seems to know him, and she basically ditches him. She breaks his heart. Now, this situation only came to pass because of all the severe mental baggage that he went through before. This dude died time and time again trying to save Emilia, and this is the thanks that he gets. This is the appreciation for all of his efforts, her just ditching him, well, that hurts bad. Him connecting with Rem so much that Rem keeps dying time and time again in front of him. She does so much to him, does so much for the people around him, even professes her love to him, which he subtly turns down in a clip that broke the hearts of millions. So of course I had to show it to Connor a dozen times.
Why are you showing me this, Nux? Why are you torturing me?
That's a good part. Ah, you get it?
I'm leaving.
Oh, no.
Come on. Why?
God, I love showing that clip to Connor. It's so good. It's so good. And then, what's the biggest shock to Subaru? What's the thing that really drives him mad? This is the person that saved him from his darkest spot, where he completely lost his mind, came back, and it was thanks to Rem that he was able to gather his thoughts and have the willpower to try again. What's the thanks that she gets? She's wiped from the memories of every other character except for him. And no matter what he says, even Rem's own sister doesn't remember her. All the people that she saved, all the good that she's done, she's gone in the memories of everyone. He alone bears her will. That's rough. It's not just killing a character, it's erasing a character. When a close family member dies, or a friend, the biggest consoling factor is that other people can relate. The fact that your siblings and friends went through the same thing you did, and that that person can live on in the memories of all the people that knew them and that they affected. Rem's quote-unquote death took place with no one able to share this burden. No one remembering the things she's done. No one appreciating all that she sacrificed. It's a death that leaves the ultimate void, and again, another thing Subaru has to bear alone. A couple years back, my dad's parents passed away, and it was a pretty rough time for like our entire family, obviously. We were very close, and it was very, very sad, despite the fact that they were very old. We were all very close, and it hurts to talk about even now, like 5 years later. Not to reopen any wounds or anything, but my dad has 2 siblings, and they always got along. It's not that they didn't, but they kind of got along from a distance. Like, they never hated each other, but they didn't really have anything to do with each other. And that was the ultimate turning point when it comes to that relationship, because right now my dad and his 2 siblings are extremely close. It honestly really did bring them much, much closer together, and if my grandparents would have been alive to see that, it would have made them extremely happy to witness. My dad and his brother see each other like every single week, and it's that camaraderie, that ability to share an experience with someone else that really brings them closer together and make them feel like they're not carrying the burden alone. Subaru carries this burden alone. Now, ReZero Season 2, I think, is a step up when it comes to Season 1 in every single way. When it comes to themes, when it comes to story, when it comes to character development of the entire cast all around. But there are 4 things in particular that I think Season 2 did to cement ReZero as an actual classic anime. The first is the backstory. It's Subaru's trial, where we get to meet Subaru's parents through his memories and see what his childhood was really all about. The second was Echidna, the Witch of Greed, and her confrontations with Subaru, as well as Subaru's growth through those confrontations. The third is Otto, the best wingman in all of anime, period. Otto best boy, we'll talk about him soon. And the fourth is Roswaal, one of my 10 favorite anime antagonists of all time, period. And the best part of all 4 of these epic moments is they all peter down to this very similar theme of what it means to go at life alone. If you look at the first one, his backstory, sort of, through the trial where you meet his parents, you see that he had an extremely, crushingly lonely childhood. And I don't really want to go through that episode point by point, because that's one of the greatest crafted episodes when it comes to showing a backstory and showing a character's growth I've ever seen. It's a tale about how he's alone and rejected, and therefore decides to reject everything around him. He no longer wants to go to school, he no longer wants to meet people, he no longer even desires to have someone to share his life with, and that's everything he tells himself due to the rejection of everything around him. He is completely alone. But the truth of the matter is that he's not alone. Many people find themselves crying in the shower and lamenting their loneliness, when in actuality, they aren't alone, yet they convince themselves that they are. In almost everyone's life, there's someone. There's someone to listen to you. There's someone to experience things with you, and there's someone to pick you back up when you're down. There's always someone to talk to and someone that's looking out for you. Even though, for the most part, you convince yourself that there isn't. Because psychologically speaking, when someone takes something for granted, they don't recognize that that could be the complete antidote of all of the issues that they're going through. Subaru's parents do an amazing job when it comes to highlighting that lesson when it comes to showing that Subaru is not alone despite feeling that way, and there's always someone that he could turn to even if it's from the least expected or least desirable place, and that you, the viewer, just like me, are not completely alone, even though we may think we are. The second tremendous scene of the 4th season, and this is probably my favorite scene in the entire story so far, Subaru meeting Echidna, a witch in some alternate universe, and drinking her bodily fluid. Okay, fine. The drinking the bodily fluids is not exactly the favorite thing, okay? It was pretty epic though, when she was like, bam, this came out of my vagina. Know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. All right. There's no recovering from that one at this point. Let's just move on. But when she says, you could tell me, and he realizes that even though Echidna can't interact with anyone in his real world, and even though she's talking to him for her own benefit, he realizes that he could finally share the fact that he can return by death, because Echidna is a witch and was able to watch him and his various conquests through space and time, dying time and time again. And when he realizes that he can actually say it, he starts sobbing unconsolably, realizing that he was finally able to share his most personal experience, an experience that he couldn't even tell most people if he wanted to. He could finally share it with someone. The third extremely powerful scene with Otto, best boy, is when Otto bitch slaps Subaru. Yeah, that's right. Otto 1, Subaru 0. Let's go. But most importantly, Otto's a friend. Subaru didn't realize that he could actually lean on somebody else. Part of what friendship is letting them support you. It's not all about you doing things for them. And Otto, who's essentially a glorified cab driver, pulled off the most epic bro moment of all time, giving Subaru the long-awaited yelling he deserved, saying that he could rely on him, saying that they could go at this together, saying that Subaru does not need to shoulder all this alone. And even though Otto doesn't have space-time defying powers, and even though Otto doesn't understand everything Subaru's going through because Subaru can't even tell him, sometimes that's not what friendship is about. Sometimes friendship is about just sticking your dick out for your bro. Otto is the greatest wingman in all of anime in his journey to get Subaru into Emilia's pants. I mean, to get Subaru to save the world and free the sanctuary and stuff, but mostly to get into Emilia's pants. I think everyone has an Otto to a certain degree. Even if we don't know we do, because Subaru didn't recognize that he had an Otto until Otto decided to step in and, punch him in the face like a good wingman does from time to time. In fact, 83% of people that get with the girl of their dreams has a wingman that punches them in the face. True story. It's so hard to turn to people for help. It really is. And it's so sad because it seems like the natural thing to do. As human beings, we rely on each other all the time. All the technology you use was invented by someone else, unless Thomas Edison himself is watching this video, which honestly, Thomas Edison, if you're watching this video, definitely subscribe. But what I'm trying to say is, we're all so stubborn, even when it comes to things that people genuinely want to do. The amount of times I'm not willing to ask for help or not willing to ask for a favor for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I don't like looking vulnerable and I don't want people to think that they have something over than me now that they did a favor. But honestly, the high points of my life are when I do something positive for my friends. So allowing my friends to do something like that for me is genuinely the give and take that makes every relationship work. Both sides need to be giving at all times, and sometimes the person that is vulnerable is too selfish or self-absorbed to notice that sometimes for their friend's sake, they need to ask them for a favor. Willing to let someone else into your own bleak existence every once in a while, honestly, is the ultimate cure for everything. Otto isn't super powerful. Otto isn't an absolute genius master planner. If he'd play Among Us, he would lose as the imposter every single time. Otto's a character that got barely any screen time, but that was always there. Otto's not super special, he's not super influential, and he's not someone that you could use for clout, but he's a friend, and that's worth more than all those things that I've mentioned before. YouTube is a job that makes you feel like you're doing everything alone, that it's your personality that you're putting on your channel, that you're getting your viewers and you're making your thumbnails, that you're up against this massive ecosystem, and that you don't really have any chance of survival here because so many channels that are popping at one point just die over the next few years. It's a very scary environment, and honestly, having found friends that I can help them with their thumbnails, that they could give me good ideas for titling my videos, that we could collab and watch things together, honestly, recognizing that was by far the most beneficial move I could have taken. More often than not, we have the illusion of life being easier to just stay huddled in your own shell and not ask people for help, to go at things alone so other people can't mess it up, to not need to rely on other people who are very often unreliable and annoying, yet despite all that, it's not easier because your mental health is the one thing that no one takes accountability accountability for. Everyone can calculate every hour of their day, what they're doing, how to proceed, how to succeed. But at the end of the day, the thing that no one counts for is the thing that makes us all tick. And opening up to a homie is sometimes worth more than any amount of success you could have gotten without giving your precious hours to helping a friend. And like any good story, we have an amazing antagonist. Roswaal is a fantastic antagonist for a multitude of reasons, and this isn't a character analysis on him per se, but I did specifically want to talk about a few parts of his character and how he perfectly reflects the theme here, and that is what every good antagonist needs to try and do. Contrasting the themes and the challenges of the protagonist is what you want to see. Roswaal has a most brilliant philosophy. He is the ultimate utilitarianistic bastard. He puts results over anything else, and in his mind, the ultimate way to create it is to turn Subaru into somebody that thinks and acts exactly like he would. He sets up this ultimate challenge for Subaru, where he has two coordinated attacks going on at the same time. One in the sanctuary and one in his mansion, and Subaru can only save one of them. No matter how many times Subaru dies and comes back and dies again, he'll continuously be thrown into this cycle where he can't save everyone. He's conditioning Subaru to become of the same mind as he is himself. And he doesn't care how gruesome his death is, because in another timeline where Subaru wakes up, there will be another Roswaal. He doesn't care about his own demise and about the demise of the people close to him, because with every single cycle, Subaru gets a step closer to becoming the spiritual successor of his archenemy. This is so powerful because Roswaal is the temptation of isolation. He is forcing Subaru to go a path alone. He's thinking linearly how Subaru should be acting in every case, what situation and decision Subaru is going to need to make at every point. The only thing that he doesn't account for is the fact that Subaru could reach out, is the fact that Subaru could make friends, and is the fact that Subaru can do something that Roswaal could not. Roswaal was living a lie his entire life for a grandiose goal, and at the end of the day, all of his success, all of his brilliance is just winding down a path of isolation. And the thing is, I understand Roswaal very, very well. I find myself to be a kind of person that tries to shove my emotions down and tries to hide it in different places so that I can work on what I view as the most important thing in front of me right now. And honestly, I still do it despite knowing that it is not healthy and does not work in the long run. For the last week and a half or so, I kind of took it easy, but before that, dude, I was uploading like insane, high quality videos every day. Over the last few days, I was working with tech stuff. I got a second monitor finally. I'm gonna stream more. I'm excited. But the idea of taking alone time or taking a break time or taking chill time, that was foreign to me, because every moment that I would rest, I would think, wow, this is a moment that I could do something productive. Okay, wow, I can't believe I'm doing something like this. So I get the mindset so well, and I still beat myself up over it every time I watch an episode of something to chill. I'm upset at myself for wasting that time. Now, I wouldn't say I throw myself into a cycle of demise where I witness myself dying in extremely excruciating ways in order for a future incarnation of myself to do better. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I do something like that per se yet, but the concept of squashing down your mental health in order to go at things alone for some sort of 100% progress bar, that is not the right way to live, because an 100% progress bar alone, at the end of the day, it's not success. It's a feat worth crying over. This is the biggest lesson that ReZero taught me. It's the biggest theme that affected me when it comes to watching the show, that yeah, I really like the situations and how the characters get out of them and all of that. The romance is like, okay, whatever. But when I watch ReZero and I'm viewing this world of isolation, this world where it's about a character who's forced to go at things alone, it really does get me thinking. It really does make me realize how alone I am. It makes me realize how alone everyone is, especially in the modern day where we feel like we have parasocial relationships so often. You have stans of every big YouTuber living their life as just a culmination of their identity being a fan of a YouTuber or a K-pop star or whatever it is. Online relationships where you feel like you're friends with someone because they like your tweets despite having never spoken to them. And to be honest, I was thinking about this for a while because I think that for me personally, the absolute hardest part of coronavirus is the isolation aspect of, yes, people are sick, and luckily no one in my family passed away because of it, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But being that I don't personally know anyone that died, the part that really affected me most was the loneliness. I feel like everyone over the last year somehow had their lives take this drastic turn where relationships die and self-sufficiency was born, but not a healthy self-sufficiency, a self-sufficiency due to the lack of people around us to support. So maybe ReZero came out at the perfect time. Maybe ReZero just hit me hard because I recognize that I am alone. And it's rough, but I am extremely grateful for all of you that watch this, and for all of you that made it this far, and for all of you in general. You guys are awesome. You're extremely powerful, and you keep me going. I really thank you. Leave a like if you didn't yet, and subscribe for future epic videos and analysis and memes and whatever the hell I'm interested in doing, because that's basically my motto here, okay? We do what we want. That's right, baby. No rules. But you know how growing up, every one of us was like a Naruto-tard, like a massive fan for Naruto, or a One Piece tard, or a Poke-tard. Remember that old terminology? Well, I think it's time to bring it back, because after really getting all teary-eyed over some scenes in ReZero, looking at a protagonist who's forced to go at things alone and remind me of the isolation that I myself feel all too often, with my prideful asshole of a heart not willing to ask people around me for help until I eventually implode in a downward spiral of loneliness and misery. I am a retard. Shout out to the inevitable Twitter warriors that are gonna take this out of context and blast me with it. But also shout out to the people that make me feel not alone and fight on my behalf whenever these social justice morons decide to destroy me over reasons that are stupid. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Have yourselves a most wonderful evening. And remember to stay weird, fam.